I think that understanding is born out of necessity because we don't have any other resources at all. We are an accidental nation, hence we understand that people are our only resource. So if we need to develop anything, it's to develop people. Hence our heavy investment in education and focus. I think it's not just government, it's a cultural norm for Asians to invest in education. In general, I mean, especially in the Chinese culture, and Singapore is 75% Chinese, right? So that comes within the societal aspect, and then the government just leverages on that. So if you see our PISA performance or international performances in international tests, benchmarking, we do well. It's because there is a very close nexus from home and school to get that done. I think parents take a huge responsibility and ownership over students' education, especially in the early years. After 15, 16 years old, thereafter is dependent on the child. But before that, it's what parents also bring to the table. Nothing happens by accident, right? It has to be curated, choreographed, and intentional. There must be a systemic effort, right? You cannot have piecemeal approaches and expect things to work. There are no quick fixes. Everyone must understand that this is the direction we are heading towards, and every part of the system must work to achieve the goal. So in education, there is curriculum, there is technology, but a very key component are the teachers, right? A lot of countries pay lip service to the importance of teachers. Everyone says that the teacher is important, but you look at budgetary expenditure, resource endowment, in terms of teacher development, teacher recruitment, teacher retention, there is actually very little, right? But in Singapore, we understand the teacher is key. So from the recruitment aspect, from the very beginning, when we recruit the teachers, we select from the top 30th percentile of the cohort. Okay? And even that is very competitive. For every one teaching position, there would be 8 to 10 applicants in the 30th percentile, top 30th percentile. Right? So from recruitment all the way in terms of career development, pre-service training, allowing teachers to develop when they are in service, there is a lot of emphasis. We must create the buy-in, right, amongst the public, amongst the teachers, with the education professionals in the lead, right? I think the greatest issue is there are too many cooks when it comes to education, right? When that happens, nothing good happens, right? We must understand there are very few people who intervene and say this is what the defense of a country should be, right? But when it comes to education, because we all have gone through schools, we all think we know what education should be. So we all can speak about it. Hence, it creates, we all seem to be experts in education. That is the greatest danger now, right? In Singapore's case, that alignment happens because it is aligned to the economy, right? What is the economy's trajectory? Where do we want to go in 10 years, 15 years, 30 years? Can we plan towards it? When in 30 years time, if I want to develop, in 15 years time, if I want to develop this particular industry, would I have the manpower, skilled manpower to get that done? Right? So there is a very close relationship in Singapore's education system vis-a-vis the economic outcomes that the country tries to achieve. It may not be so in other countries. Right? So the alignment becomes more diversified in other countries. But core skills, we should know what we want to develop in our students and work towards it. So I think in Singapore's case, the alignment happens because we are clear about our fundamentals, that at the end of the day, when the child graduates, he must have gainful employment. Right? Either he does something on his own or is able to be employed. If that too does not happen, then the education system has failed. Right? Then we work backwards or work forwards in terms of economic planning. In 15 years down the road, what are the industries we are looking at? Right? If you're still looking at car manufacturing as is now, 15 years down the road, it will be very different. But you're preparing the child for car manufacturing as is now, he's not going to have a job. Right? Then we have failed. The society has failed. Right? So I think that's where we are a bit clearer in what we need to achieve. Right? I think every country has to look at that and say, what do we foresee for our own country in terms of its growth areas? It's well and nice to talk about education as a holistic endeavor to develop the child. We all do that, right? And it must be done. But if it fails the child and after graduating from university he's still unemployed, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to have a major social issue. Right? Youth unemployment. It's not something you would want. Especially youth unemployment among the graduates. Right? While after grade 10, many of us may say, okay, I'm willing to do manual work. And there will always be some manual work to be done. I can do it. I'll be gainfully employed. Not very high employment in terms of compensation, but gainfully employed. But a university student, a graduate of a university, is not going to say, I'm going to do manual work. I want to do some creative work, use my mind. I think teacher ownership, teacher leadership, teacher autonomy is very critical, provided you have competent professionals. Autonomy comes with responsibility. Right? So you cannot say, I want to be autonomous, but I don't take any responsibility. So in my mind, hence I went earlier I mentioned about teacher recruitment, teacher development, because you develop a competent professional. Once you have developed the competent professional, let him do his job. But the issue world over is, do we have competent professionals in our classrooms? Right? Have we put a well-qualified person in front of us children? Right? Therein lies the issue. Because many of us have not done it, so everyone else wants to intervene. Once you have a professional, nobody tells a surgeon how to do his job. Lie down in the operating table and tell him how to do it. He's competent, I trust. We lack that same trust because the competency is not clearly established. It must be multi-pronged. Okay, first we must understand that this is a priority. I must get the best people into the classrooms. Then I invest in terms of recruitment, in terms of pre-service training and in service training. What do we do with the people we already have? raise their standards. Okay, as unionists, I'm not going to tell you to fire them. Right? Raise their standards, build their competencies. Right? It's a mutual promise that we need to undertake this endeavor to raise their standards. Can we facilitate raising the averages up? Yes. You can use technology, you can reinvent your curriculum, you can produce enough materials, resources for an average teacher to improve his teaching skills. All that can be done, and that's how we actually did. When I'm talking about competent professionals and recruiting from the top 30th percentile, it has not always been the case in Singapore either. We started this journey in probably 1981 when we realized that we need to ensure that we need to have the best people as teachers if we want to revamp the education system. Right? And it was a journey. So while recruiting the good ones, we cannot run away from the fact that salaries have something to do with it. Okay? The problem with a lot of people is people say teaching is a noble job, you must do it with your heart, hence you should not talk about salary. I'm a pragmatic person, right? Maslow'ian hierarchy tells you that if you cannot fulfill your basic needs, your higher needs cannot be attained. Teachers are humans, right? You cannot say that you must work for the cheapest salary base, lowest salary base, and do your best. That's not going to happen, right? So we must meet halfway to say we will reward, we will compensate, but these are the standards, right? This will be our contract, social contract, right? We're going to pay you this much, but we're going to expect this much, right? If you pay this much, you can only expect this much, and somebody has to take responsibility, right? Because we all have a finite amount of resources, right? And every single penny must be spent well. So we made a choice in Singapore to say that if we wanted this quality teachers, then something has to give way. And one of the things that has given way, or in terms of compromise, is our class size. Right? While the developed Western nations may perpetuate this notion of smaller class sizes, we actually have class sizes of 40. It's not necessarily small, but the choice, the alternative is you split the class 20 each, and then you have to lower the standard of teachers. You have to double the number of teachers, hence you will eventually lower the standard of teachers. You have to pay less, you need 2 people, right? So instead of getting from the top 30th percentile, now you have lower, maybe up to even 50th percentile, right? Then you're back to square one. So it's a call that we make. We know our class sizes are higher than OECD averages, but would you prefer a qualified, well-qualified, good person in front of the 40, or average so-so in front of the 20? Make a judgment call, right? And if you present it that way, because people might be under the impression, no, you should be able to hire good people for even the 20. Reality is such that it's not going to happen, right? You still have to pay, you still have the classroom sizes, the kind of resources that are needed. It's going to burst the government budget, right? You have to, right? But even in a classroom of 40, I can still have every child talking, right? Again, it comes back to, as you said, pedagogy. is the teacher competent enough? Okay, most of them, if I use a craftsman example, most teachers have only one tool in their toolbox, that is the hammer. Right? Everything, to teach everything and every child, they just hammer and they think it fixes the problem. It doesn't. Sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you need a saw, right? But if only a hammer in your toolkit, that's all you're going to use, and it's not going to be effective, right? So skills development of teachers is very important. Integration of technology is important. A lot of schools invest a lot of money in interactive smart boards. But if you actually go into classrooms and observe, teachers still actually use them as a blackboard because they don't know how to use it. So we have technology and we say technology has arrived in our classrooms. I'll say think again. It has not. You've just replaced a cheap blackboard with a very expensive smartboard. That's it. The teaching style has not changed. Right? The teacher just uses a digital platform. That's it. It does not transform teaching. Whereas it can transform if you have actually equipped the teacher. Right? There's lack of follow-through in terms of even professional development. Governments and schools spend a lot of money on professional development. The teachers go for a 2-day, 3-day workshops, come back to school, they go back to whatever they were doing before. Because there's no accountability, there's no ownership, there's no responsibility. Nobody's going to follow up, right? Nobody says, what did you learn? Can I see it in your classroom tomorrow? Okay, and we will see whether we can actually get this done. It doesn't happen, so. We should be, as teachers, have our students' growth and development at the core. And start from there, you will not go wrong. If you think that as a teacher unionist, we should only be focused about teachers' welfare and compensation, we are starting with the wrong end in mind. Okay? If you start from the child and work backwards, and my take is, child must be. If there's no child, I don't have a vocation. Even if I say you still need to pay me well and all that, but teaching is still a vocation, right? It's still a noble profession, right? It starts from the child, and if there's no child, there's no teacher. Right? So coming back, put the child at the center, and then in my mantra is teacher well-being is student well-being. If the teacher is not well equipped, if the teacher is not of the right frame of mind, nothing's going to go well in the classroom, and eventually the children suffer. Right? So how do we ensure that we prepare our children for their future? Then equip the teachers with those skills and resources that's necessary to get the job done. Teacher stress, teacher burnout, it's not merely about workload. It's about being demoralized. Right? Once you have a demoralized teacher, no matter what you do, you are not going to get the kind of student achievement we want. Right? So focus on the teacher from the policy perspective. Right? If you we have this simple saying in Singapore: the principals take care of the teachers take care of the students. If from outside you want to take care of the children, you're not going to do that, because before war, the teacher is in charge. We can do whatever we want with policy instruments and levers. Ultimately, if the teacher does not agree, it's not going to work. So focus on developing the teacher and let the teacher take care of the child. It's our job, it's my job as a teacher to look after the children, not the principal per se, not the policy, not the minister. need to adapt. We need to decide in the classroom how we want to change things. The broad benchmarks are there, baselines have been established, at least in Singapore's case. Then again, put the child at the center, every child, and create multiple pathways. There's no longer a single diet for everyone. It definitely has not been. It will no longer be. Right? I'll give you an example. My eldest boy just finished college, so he finished GCE A-levels, and he's going to go into army. He's a kayaker. He's an avid sportsman. So he needed a curriculum that will fit, right? But I think it has not quite fit him yet. He has different interests, which in the compartmentalized world of teaching and even universities cannot be matched. Right? Engineering is engineering, science is science, chemistry and literature don't meet. Silos, right? You look at, that's how our curriculum is, right? And at university, if you're trying to merge them, it's a huge chaos you're creating in the minds of children because they have studied it this way. We need to start opening up to say that if you want to study science, chemistry and literature, you should be able to, right? All that, it has to be inter and multidisciplinary. This notion that you actually mentioned this, in whatever we pursue, we need to think like the disciplinarian. Right? If you're studying mathematics, think like a mathematician. Right? It's a fundamental skill that we all lack, and we have not done it because we teach content, maths, as if it's knowledge. That is our greatest problem. It is a solution to a problem. Pythagoras' theorem is a solution to a problem that he encountered 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and he solved it. Right? If you present it that way, then every discipline is solving some problem. Right? Then we would be in a better place. That is actually key. This notion of lifelong learning is being embedded in every layer of society. So we no longer talk about employment, we talk about employability. Right? How do you stay employable? Right? Skill sets. Whether you are self-employed or employed by somebody else. Right? So the Singapore government has actually invested a lot of money in training and retraining people. The universities, the polytechnics, actually all the 5 polytechnics that we have and the institutes of education have started continuous education programs for adults to go. We've started a university for working adults. The government has given, they call it Skills Future Credit, $500 for every single Singaporean who's above 25 years old. He's given $500 to go learn something, anything. It started, so the government has not plowed in money into it because not much of it is being used. At the moment, I think only about 30% of that money has been used. So the government is not going to plow in any more money. But if it's going to be depleted, the government is more than happy to plow in. So just to encourage people to go learn anything. Does not have, it's the money that the government gives you for you to just study, learn something new. It need not be your job related. It can be anything. Go learn a new language. Okay? We just want to encourage this notion that we must continuously learn. Learning never stops. Right? Take up a course, be it formal, informal, bite-sized, PhD, anything. Learning. Yeah. So that's how we have framed our education for the kids now. And we have four outcomes to achieve when a student graduates from general education. One is to be a confident person, the other to be an active contributor, a concerned citizen, and the key one, a self-directed learner. So we need to ensure that we achieve these four outcomes in the child, that he's always passionate about learning,